Well, the conversation that we had earlier was around Makiba and what exactly, of course, we can expect in terms of savings and benefits for Kenyans from that. Now, to some other news, of course, that has been making news here today. Earlier on, we had the official launch of the Kenya Labor Market Information System. That, of course, is a platform that has been created to facilitate, well, stakeholders in the job market, be they employers, researchers, job seekers, people in that entire ecosystem, be able to interact with the job market in a much more modern way. We have been doing it in informal fashion, but this sort of seeks to disrupt that and bring technology to bear on the whole ecosystem and be able to bring us into the modern age. Well, to give us insight into what exactly that means, not just for employers, but also for various stakeholders, including institutions that provide employment, business people, people who are looking for employment, the government itself, and other stakeholders. With me on set right now is a gentleman who is the chairman of the National Industrial Training Institute, and his name is Mr. Doctor. Escapes me. Kamau Gashige. My apologies about that. Yes. Now, part of the conversation here today has been around the fact that for many years, Kenya has engaged with its labor, so to say, from an informal perspective. This sort of seeks to, well, change that situation and bring us into the modern age. Please give us insight into what exactly the platform that was launched today is.
Well, the labor market information system is really just what it says. It's information about the labor market.
Yes.
And this kind of information is data that you can actually draw statistical analysis on, so that you can make projections and understand really what's going on in your labor market, where are the gaps, what you might therefore need to do in order to be able to meet certain demand that otherwise you wouldn't be aware of.
Yes.
And in essence, it's a platform that's online, is a management information system or data information system, which allows people to input information. So whether you're, as you put it in your introduction, an institution, an employer, or even a prospective employee, you put your data online, and that then is aggregated.
Yes.
And then people who have the analytical skills are able to make sense of that data, so that then government and of course everybody that the government serves, which is the Kenyan public, the employers, the employees, the institutions, everybody knows what they need to do. And in an age of disruption, because there's been lots of technologically based disruptions taking place in the marketplace anywhere and everywhere in the world, without such information, then really you're like a ship without a rudder.
Yes.
Yeah.
In his book, after he left office, former U.S. President George W. Bush said that he had a conversation with the then president of China, I think it was Hu Jintao, and he asked him, what are the problems that keep you awake at night? And this gentleman replied that every year 25 million new Chinese get out of universities, colleges, and come onto the job market. The situation is similar in certain ways here in Kenya. Thousands upon thousands, indeed millions of youth coming into the job market right across Africa every year, but very few, indeed scarce opportunities for them. Do you think this system will go in any way towards resolving this crisis, so to say?
It has to, and in fact what you've just described is exactly the motivation behind it. The Ministry of Labour is charged with seeking ways in which we can have optimal employment in the economy, where industry is really fed with the right kind of employee. And so the CS and her team knew that this is something that they had to implement. Thankfully, it's been done now. We're looking at a situation where there's about 40% unemployment in this country, which is phenomenally high. And there's a Nigerian saying, which is similar to what you just said about Chinese, that when the poor are hungry, they can't sleep. And when the poor can't sleep, the rich can't sleep either. Because you know what will happen. The poor are going to knock on your door in polite ways. So the challenge, therefore, for us is to see, particularly because the population growth in this part of the world is really high. And we're looking now at a population in Africa of 1.2 billion. At the turn of the millennium, it was half that. And by 2050, the projections are that 1 in 4 people on Earth will be African. And so obviously with that kind of growth, most of them will be very young. And so what are we going to do about getting them employment? The other thing that we have to factor in is the fact that we're going through the fourth industrial revolution.
Yes.
And so that means that the change, or the pace of change, is faster now than it ever has been before.
Yes.
Another very interesting demographic fact is that urbanization is on the increase.
Yes.
So the kinds of jobs again on policy. Are you going to focus on agriculture? In what way? Will it be small holdings? Are you going to try and shift towards larger holdings, as much as the industrialized world has done?
Yes.
Because there won't even be people in the rural areas to do the farming perhaps. And so all of this comes into play, and again, just having the data on what's going on in terms of employment allows us to have some kind of a window into the future.
Yes.
To make the right decisions now.
Yes. You talked about the fourth industrial revolution, and this of course creates a very interesting dynamics. Part of what you had said earlier at the launch was the fact that about 80% of jobs as people know them are set to disappear in the very near future.
Yeah.
First because of artificial intelligence and the convergence between that machinery and of course with humanity,
yes.
the interaction that will be created. And nations will then face crisis if they're not prepared, because you have this mass of youth who want jobs and want to be employed in gainful ways, not just any sort of employment. How then do you sort of translate what we are doing here today into real measures that can help resolve that situation, especially from where you sit at the National Industrial